Ever wonder how one of the world's absolute best venture firms keeps finding the next big thing over and over again? Well, today, we're going to dive into the playbook of Union Square Ventures, and we're going to see it all through the eyes of one of their most influential partners, Rebecca Kaden.
I mean, think about it. This is the question for every single startup and investor out there today. You've got this great idea, right? But you're stepping into a ring with these massive, dominant tech companies. So where do you even start? How do you compete?
You'd think it takes some kind of magic, right? Maybe a crystal ball to predict the future, or just a whole lot of luck to find a winner in this super crowded market. But for Union Square Ventures, or USV as they're known, it's not about luck at all. It's something way more methodical.
That's it. It all boils down to a thesis, a really strong, guiding belief about where the world is actually heading. And listen, this isn't just some fluffy mission statement they hang on the wall. It's a hardcore framework that shapes every single bet they make.
So to really get why their solution is so smart, we first have to wrap our heads around the problem. And honestly, there's no better way to frame it than what we can call the Amazon problem.
I love the way Rebecca Kaden puts this. Notice the word she uses. It's not just fear, it's awe and respect. She's getting at Amazon's insane scale, their capital, their data, their speed. It creates this environment where just trying to compete head-on is basically a suicide mission. Their executional advantage is just on another level.
Okay, so if you can't outspend the giants, what's the play? Well, Kaden says you have to find a completely different way to grow. See, most companies get stuck on this treadmill of paid growth. You're just buying ads, buying one customer after another. It's crazy expensive and it just doesn't last. The alternative? That's what she calls leverage growth. And this is where the magic happens. This is where your customers become your marketing department. It's organic, it's viral, and this is the key. Success actually makes more growth easier, not harder.
Right. So leveraged growth is the goal. But how in the world do you find the companies that can actually pull that off? That brings us right to USV's core strategy. Their playbook isn't about chasing the latest hot trend. It's about a super disciplined, thesis-driven approach that they've been honing for almost 20 years. And what's so brilliant about this is that their thesis isn't set in stone. It lives and breathes. Thesis 1.0, way back when, was all about social networks, Twitter, Tumblr. Then, once those networks got huge, Thesis 2.0 shifted to the plumbing behind them, things like MongoDB, and the decentralized future with companies like Coinbase. And now, Thesis 3.0 is all about using these powerful tools to give people better access to the most important things in life.
And this quote from co-founder Fred Wilson just nails it. The key here is that USV doesn't just hire people who fit the mold. They bring on partners who can get the core beliefs, but also know how to push and stretch them into new places. And that is the perfect entry for Rebecca Kaden, who is brought on to help shape and execute this new Thesis 3.0.
So how exactly does a partner like Kaden stretch the thesis? Well, to really get that, you have to look at her background, which is pretty unique and absolutely central to how she sees the world.
Her path was definitely not the typical one. She didn't come from finance. She started out as a journalist. She studied literature at Harvard and worked at an online literary magazine. And that experience of sifting through tons of information to find the one compelling story, it turned out to be the perfect training for venture capital. It taught her how to find the signal in the noise, which is just an invaluable skill when you're looking at a brand new company with almost no data. So this brings us right back to her big idea, leveraged growth. It's not just a buzzword, okay? It's about building a system where your customers do the work for you. It could be a brand with a really cool look that people just have to share, like Allbirds. Or maybe a service where every new user makes the product better for everyone else. The point is, the growth engine is built right into the product itself.
All right, so enough with the theory. What does this actually look like in the real world? Let's break down the 3 pillars of USV's current thesis and check out the companies they're actually putting their money behind.
And before we jump into the examples, I just want to pause on this number for a second, because this strategy, it pays off. Big time. This slide shows an internal rate of return, or IRR, of almost 59% for one of their funds. So in simple terms, that's a measure of how profitable their investments are. And let me tell you, that is an absolutely incredible number. It's proof that their high-conviction model, making fewer, smarter bets, really works.
Okay, so first up is Pillar 1, knowledge. The big idea here is simple, but it's really profound. It's about using technology to drive up the value of learning, while at the same time, driving down the cost and the barriers for everyone to get access to it.
And you can see this so clearly in their portfolio. You've got OutSchool, which connects teachers and students directly. There's Duolingo, which makes learning a language feel like you're playing a game. And Career Karma, which helps people navigate their way into the tech world. You see the pattern? They aren't just making small improvements to the old system. They're building totally new ones.
All right, next up is Pillar 2, Capital. And this is about way more than just money. We're talking about giving more people access to high-quality financial tools, to investment opportunities, and even to the new decentralized world of Web3.
And the range here is pretty wild. On one end, you have Stash, which brings investing to pretty much everyone. Then you've got Coinbase, which is the main gateway for a lot of people into crypto. And then you have something like Alchemy, which is even deeper. It's the actual infrastructure, the digital pipes that developers are using to build the next wave of the internet.
And just to give you a sense of the scale we're talking about here, just look at Stash. As of a recent report, it was managing over $4.3 billion in assets. Now stop and think about that. That's billions of dollars from everyday people who are now part of the financial system in a way they probably couldn't have been before. It just proves how massive these markets can become when you tear down the old walls.
And that brings us to the third and final pillar, which is well-being. And they define this really broadly, and I think that's on purpose. It's not just about physical and mental health. It also includes community, connection, even just having fun. You know, all the stuff that makes for a good life.
So this is where you find companies like Modern Fertility, which is giving women incredible new insights into their own health, or Brave Health, which is taking on huge challenges in mental health care. But then you also see a brand like Allbirds, and you might be thinking, a shoe company? But it makes perfect sense. It's the ultimate example of leveraged growth. A brand built on a community and a look that people just love and want to share with everyone.
Okay, so we've seen the thesis and how it's playing out today. But the real genius of having a thesis like this isn't just about what's happening now. It's about having a map for where things are going.
Think about it. Their whole focus on access, on networks, on protocols, it positions them perfectly for the next huge technological shifts. They're already super deep in the foundational pieces of Web3, and now they're looking ahead to a future powered by AI and what they call agentic world tooling. Basically, these are AI agents that can run entire chunks of a business on their own, creating a whole new kind of leverage.
And so that really just leaves us with one final thought. If you use this kind of thesis-driven thinking, what's the big opportunity that almost everyone is missing today? What's the idea that sounds kind of weird or non-consensus right now, but is going to become the new normal and completely change our world over the next 10 years?